I'm Scott Peretti. I work at Katz Media, which is the largest media representation company, but I run our digital businesses, predominantly in audio as well as some CTV business. And based mostly in the US, but we're starting to expand more broadly across the globe. So.
Awesome. I'm Silke Zetcher. I'm the VP of Global Commercial Partnerships at AudioStack, and for the last 6 years, we have built an API that automates the entire process of how audio is being produced end to end, and to enable enterprise businesses, be it publishers or brands or agencies or media vendors, to enable the automation and scaling of audio assets.
And I'm Caleb Mansfield. I'm the Vice President of Partner Success at Claritas. Claritas has been around for 50 plus years. If you've heard of Prism segments, it comes originally from Claritas. But in the last decade or so, we've moved more into the digital media space, focusing on attribution and measurement, using AI to do so, as well as creative optimization in the AI space. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Thank you.
I think that's what's really exciting about this. I mean, I think there's so many interesting parts of AI. It's so funny. I was like the first of my friends to like have a cell phone and to have like an iPhone, and I feel like I'm the last of everybody like dig into AI. And it's been so fun to learn from all of you guys on what you're doing here and how you guys are using it. And the creative side really excites me because I think it's easy to default to creative as it makes the creative for you. And there's some really cool things there, but I think it can be an aid. And so thinking about that whole value chain in audio, right? Specifically in audio is our focus on here. What part of that whole value chain that AI touches is evolving fast? And so up to all of you.
Well, I think what's evolving first is perhaps like from a media perspective, using AI from an optimization perspective. And I think as we are in a media industry, maybe creative has been thought of second, or maybe there's the most question marks around that. But from my perspective also, as brands and agencies wants to diversify some of their assets and how we communicate, right? All of us could here in this room respond to ads differently, and I think you no longer can respond with a just generic message. So I think when it comes to like pivoting and growing, I think the creative ability of scaling and optimizing and automating creative assets is probably accelerating way much more with AI, and I think it's a great tool to do so, because those are usually the kind of painful situation where a voiceover has to sit in the studio for a very, very long time.
And I want to dig into, I think this is such a killer way to kick it off. Scott, on your end, how is creative an afterthought? Is it the first thing? Like, where does it fit into when you guys are planning out a campaign?
So it's becoming a bigger thought. Because I for most of our customer base is agencies, right? And I think when they think about audio creative, there isn't a lot of thought that goes into it, unfortunately, and so it's kind of an afterthought where video is where that time and money is more spent. So I think historically agencies will look for ways to use creative and reach maybe a marketplace, a geography, maybe a demographic or a genre. But I think with some of the things that you're doing, Silky, and it's really kind of opening things up to be proactive, to go to customers and say, did you know audio could be differentiated this way and it could be that much more effective? So really taking solutions almost to the customer to get them to put more energy and think through audio solutions a bit differently. Yeah,
and I think that me and you, the US perspective on audio creative is so different. I love coming to this event. I love people meeting on a global side, like the amount of like audio creative agencies out of like Australia and the UK. And then you get to the US and there's a great one attached to SiriusXM Media. Right. If you work through them, you get to work with a fantastic studio over there. Some of the agencies do have people. Oxford Road has Stu Redwine, who's amazing at it, but it's not like an independent thing, and the idea of making budget for it just isn't available. And so what you're saying here is like AI is allowing, I don't know if I can put it here, AI is allowing for you in your path right now, which doesn't have a creative team, to be creative.
But I think that's the thing with AI, like we were joking, like everybody just talks about it, right?
Yeah.
So there's an element of AI that can be super overwhelming.
Yes.
But I think when we get together in a room at Katz, like what are the problems we're trying to solve? Mm-hmm. What are the things that we could do if we could become more efficient at it and offer those? So, and I think that's why, I'm looking at both of these guys. They're such great partners because they're helping to fuel what's happening in audio right now by offering solutions that people like us on the sales side can take to market now at a scalable way and really deliver better creative, but more importantly, I think better outcomes for the advertiser. Yep. right? Which gets them spending more and investing more in audio.
And that's to you, Caleb, on that optimization, right? That's what we're talking about here. So talk about it a little bit.
Yeah, I think a lot of times when we talk about AI, and that's what our partners at AudioStack do, is you think of the generative part of AI and AI helping us to create things. AI, you hear it in the scary way, AI taking over, voiceovers, things like that. Where we're looking at AI is not just, okay, now you have 20, 30, 40 creative variations, what do you do with it? And that's also very overwhelming for marketers. You say, okay, I have 40 audio creatives now. Do I choose exactly where this creative is going to be served? Who gets this? Where they get it? On what platform? We're using AI to actually say, just give us your ads, give us your 40, give us your 50 ads now that you have them. And we will use AI to optimize and choose which device should be getting your ad. So you're reaching millions of users, millions of devices with your campaign. Instead of setting tons of rules behind it, let the AI learn which creative performs best for your users or the devices you're running on, and it will choose for you in real time, in milliseconds, which creative should be served to that user device. For a human to do something like that, we get millions of data points from these impressions. We have dozens of creatives. There's hundreds of millions of different combinations of where an ad could go that AI can do in seconds, which a single human couldn't do in a lifetime. So that's, I think, where there's a lot of benefits to that.
And that's feeding in all the exposure data and delivery data and conversion data that you guys have, taking into account different publishers, different regions, different advertisers and the categories that they're in.
Yeah, so when an ad serves, we're getting location data, device data, what they're listening to, contextual data, etc., weather data. The AI is taking all of that into account when it decides which ad you should be getting. And it's, we've done it a lot in the display space. I think that's where people think of it the most, is like, okay, you can combine a background image, a headline, a call to action, different colors, etc. That makes sense logically. We get a lot of pushback in audio and say, how do you differentiate audio in real time? And we've kind of been working really closely with AudioStack, and we've run campaigns with Katz where we have 5 different voiceovers of different genders, ethnicities, etc. We have different call to actions at the end, and the AI is combining all of these different variations in real time to create a personalized ad for the user that's getting it.
So each of those things that you mentioned there are like Mad Lib style, like you're placing them in there and creating unique combinations in real time based on what you think is going to resonate based on the data you have.
Exactly. 5 music tracks, 5 voiceovers, 3 end cards or call to actions, and then I'm going to do quick mental math. 5, 5, 3, 75 different creatives that the AI can pick and choose in real time to put.
Somebody check him on that. I'm terrible.
Yeah, it sounded John. He's in a good crowd. Let him go.
I think that what's really fun about that is I feel like when we start talking about creative optimization and podcasting, everybody was just like, wouldn't it be cool if the podcast told you right now that it was raining outside? And it's like, well, no, because we don't know when they're going to listen to it, and no, because they know it's raining. Like, we can figure out other things, but the idea that we can take all these signals and infer different things, we can go a little bit deeper, is really exciting on all that.
But what's also great is I think these solutions really open up the vastness of the supply of podcasting, to be able to take advantage and leverage in a way that you can kind of really tap into it, because you're shifting it more to results-driven, performance-based, actions. And the reporting stuff, you got a good customer, buyer, or client, like you see the actions happening in real time and the growth, so you can take the customer or the client on a journey of how this is actually working in real time and delivering those results.
I think you're putting the listener first. I think the biggest one is always like, I don't have an audio ad, or I have 1, or I have 2. But it's like, now you actually say, like, you differentiate between like who the listener is, right, with the AI, because you utilize these signals to say, like, this might resonate more with you. And none of it, like, I know we work in advertising, but like the normal person, they don't understand why they got this ad in the first place, right? How often did I get an ad that was no relevant to me at all, like man hair dye? Why do I get this in the first place? Because I followed it. But so I think picking the signals of AI, optimizing it, but also matching the creative, which then is really resonating and highlighted by AI. I think that's. But you're putting the end consumer first.
I think that all the dials and all the things there are really interesting, but can be kind of overwhelming. And when we think about optimization, I mean, that's the goal, right? Your clients are like very happy that the audio is running and you made a cool creative for them, but like if it doesn't perform, they're not coming back.
Right.
And so when we even simplify it down even further, like the ability for these tools to determine even A/B testing, even saying I have creatives, what could we iterate on, what could be slightly different there? How do we have a killer creative, how do we shave 10 seconds off of it? How do we figure out what is the most palatable thing in that moment? Sensitive content is something that me and you have talked a lot about on brand safety and things like that, and it's gotten me to think about like, what are the versions of your ad based on the type of content? How long and loose can you go with an advertisement? If it's comedy versus if it's the news, do you have to shorten it up? And does this enable that type of work?
Absolutely. I think this like AI automation of the audio production process, it does all of that. Like if you think of different voices, different length, different types, different like everything that you just mentioned opens all of that up, and the ability to test and learn.
Yeah.
And to actually shape it better and make it better. And also thinking not just campaign by campaign, but actually what's my long-term view?
Yeah.
And I mean, Caleb, you guys measure host-read ads too. And I mean, what's how different is that to treating each piece of content unique and like that, then how the host-read ad is a different creative for each single show you work on?
So I mean, in the host read section, it can be difficult to do that AI creative, right?
That's the AI and the performance aspect.
Oh yeah, so you're asking. I was gonna say. So you're asking how are we measuring on the host side?
If we think about the host read ads as being a unique creative for each one of the host read ads, and then we think about the AI its ability to effectively create unique announcer read ads, how comparable are they on performance?
We found them to be extremely comparable, and if not, sometimes the AI is actually better. I think AI can lead to, we hear it all the time, you can have a lot of biases and it can perpetuate stereotypes using AI, but it also does things that you don't think would work in the first place. So we go to marketers all the time and they come to us and say, we want our ads served in this region, or we want our ads served to these podcast shows. We kind of take a step back and we say, let us just let the AI do its thing for a little bit and not run on these specific shows or on these specific categories. And what we found is if you just kind of take a step back, you don't force different creatives on different shows, they can actually perform better than some of the host-read ads, which is where people started to put a lot of their money because they think someone's already listening to this host. Their word is going to be, what products that they're showing is going to be the ones that they want to buy or to leverage. But we found that AI ads can actually perform better than host.
Is there a future where publishers can be more involved in this, where they can they can set parameters for how the ads come across in their show? They can set style notes and things like that could be responded to by the advertisers.
Absolutely. I mean, from a kind of production process perspective, we usually talk about 4 things: content, speech, production, and delivery. And across all of those, you can set specific parameters. For example, we are working with some creatives where they actually use AI to build in sarcasm. Right, because that is usually from a content creation perspective something where they're like, well, AI can't tell you a joke or it's like nuanced in that way. So I think it's a tool, and it requires humans, and it requires like the input, and also I think like being an audio producer and writing content is skilled, right? Yeah. But using AI, you can do it faster. You can enhance what you're doing. So it's not like either or. I think the main term was always like either or. Will AI take away everything? I think some parts perhaps, but it also enhance. And I think specifically enhancing around like the volume of the output, what you can test, what you can learn. Sure. And I think ultimately bringing more brands into audio. I think like we are here at the podcast show and I talk about audio, but also podcast. I think there's not a lot of brands in audio because they don't know where to start. And I think AI and automation of audio production allows them to do that quite cheaply and quite efficiently, and to test what is my voice in this space.
Now, with that, the automation and coming into the space, I spend a lot of time trying to bring brands into the space and do the outreach there. And recently I've had like a shift, and we keep trying to educate them about us. But sometimes I think we have to figure out how what they want fits in to what we have available. How, when they come to you with an asset that just doesn't fit, they have this TV ad that they love. How does this help?
Well, it's a challenge, by the way, because sometimes we know it's not going to be effective in audio. They're not thinking necessarily audio first, so we try to, first of all, be not offensive to them and their message, but we try to suggest other things, other tactics or other approaches, and to trust us a little bit. So sometimes we're successful at doing that, and I think we can make it better, but sometimes it's still a challenge.
I think just to add to that, in the UK, the Radio Center just brought out a study that shows when you do TV and radio together or audio together, it actually enhances everything. So there's almost like a halo effect. And I think just brands don't think audio first, they think visual first. But then also, if you think of TV, there's always an audio narration, or requires an audio narration. Some maybe have a lovely music sound or catchy like music track, right? But it's most of the time it's the audio that captures you off guard. It's the same way how we're conditioned to our names. If you're in a crowded room and someone shouts out your name, you'll listen to it because subconsciously that's what you're conditioned to. In the same way, if you're hungry and someone talks about food, you'll listen up. In the same way, if someone speaks German, I will, oh, look, another German. So the audio part has a huge impact of how we react. And I think it's almost a little bit underestimated. And the reason why I'm saying that is because audio-visual works well together. So actually also what can the audio do in visual side of things, but also brands really thinking audio first. Like how can I leverage audio to really create, I don't want to say better stories because it's overused, but to make everything a little bit more effective to what I want to do.
It's okay to say overused things in a panel, but but I like that because like back to the audio creative agencies or even just like the agencies in general. I mean, like this is the sell side effectively, right? You're the tools for that and can work both the attribution that works for the buyers, but like the sellers benefit from having that, and literally an inventory seller here. Tools. Are you finding, where's the adoption more from? Is it the publisher offering these options to the brand, or is it the brands that are looking at their creative team and saying, I got someone who kills it in digital and we're doing great in video, but I don't know what to do in audio?
I want to say it's like media agencies pushing it first. If you think of like some of the big holding groups, they have the power of one. Or like I put data first to make everything auto-driven. And I think that works actually quite well. And the reason why that works quite well, it doesn't take away from creative agencies because they can still own the idea and the thought. And you just take that idea and thought and put it into media, make it data-driven and adopt it. And that's, I think, where we play in that. And then publishers can do that also because they have their own data, right? Or you have your own DMPs and sets of things and knowledge about what works. And then you can obviously work with technology partners to bring it all together. So this ability to have this chain effect of brand, agency, be that media or creative, and the infrastructure, right, as such, I think makes it really nice to adopt that scalability and personalization at scale, because none of us would buy the same thing, no matter...
But we constantly have to be educating, and constantly, at all level. I mean, I think people, sometimes they think it's much more complicated than we make it, when it is. You know, that there's a barrier to this, no, it's actually pretty easy. And a lot of these, we all work together on these solutions. We make it pretty turnkey. And sometimes there's a hesitation about moving forward in audio because there's not a familiarity with it, or they think it's more complicated.
And I think, and I think also in the creative space, there's so much like control over creatives. People want to make sure they know exactly where this creative is going, who's receiving this creative. So I think that's been our biggest challenge is saying, hey, instead of you deciding where these 3 ads go, why don't you give us 10, 15 ads, we'll put it into our tag and just see what happens, let the AI do it. And I think that's been the hardest part that we've had to ask people to let go of is that control aspect of creatives, because it's pretty unique, but it can also be a huge game changer for the audio industry in general. It can be something that the audio industry could say they have, or the podcast industry, that TV hasn't really done, or CTV hasn't done too much. Usually there's shorter, long variations of the videos, but it's not something that's being specified for the person that's watching. It's finite edits. And I think it could be a really unique. We have so much contextual data in the podcasting space specifically that we can make creatives very cool and very personalized for the person.
There's also a risk on video because the video, like TV, YouTube's killing it on TV. So you put that ad on there. What I find funny, my wife's definitely not going to find funny. Right. But the optimization process, like, what are the data sources that you're getting? Do you have examples of like a case study or anything where someone's just like leaned in and found great success with doing this?
Yeah, we have a great case study with Katz. Not to
there you go.
We're on stage, not to sell it, but
it's under all of your chairs.
It's under all your chairs. There's a car under one.
That came naturally, but I mean, it actually is a very interesting case because it's an allergy company, and I'm from the U.S. Allergies hit different regions of the countries at many different times. There's also regions of the countries that don't get allergies, and they uploaded all of their creatives into our tags. And essentially, what happened is we saw in real time the AI change the regions that were getting the ads based on where allergy seasons were occurring, and that could have never happened. I mean, you could have set it up. It could take hours for one junior media planner to go in and set up region by region each creative. But but this was happening in real time as allergy season was changing over the 6 months that the campaign was initially live. And it was just fascinating to see how quickly it reacts and how quickly it stops serving when performance goes down. So I thought it was a pretty incredible case study.
And easy to execute. Just the thought of some of these things 5-10 years ago was like almost impossible.
Yeah.
Conceptually, that makes perfect sense, right? You want to go where the allergies are happening, but just the workflow, how all of that has changed.
And as allergies change, you can now easily change what creative, like what you're speaking about. I know we keep talking about allergies, but it can go from one set of sicknesses to another one by just plugging
seasonality, which is something I feel like we don't talk enough about in advertising and podcasting. Right, there's the opportunity for that. I think we a lot of it is spots and dots. It's buying in that next episode, buying this month, or that. And there's so many interesting things. I know I peer pressured you guys into doing pod packs, and so like figuring out contextual things around specific timelines, changing the advertisement around that opportunity. When we think about all these pieces together, right? Like I come to you guys and I have, or you want to pitch me, right?
Yeah.
And I have, you can see my media online already. You can see a general idea of where I'm targeting. Are we talking about walking in there with a mock creative made with a tool like this, and then also with an assessment of you're normally targeting here, but you're missing out on lookalikes and people here? Like, is that the opening move that can happen with these tools?
Well, that's how we approach it. We try to, without overwhelming a customer in 13,000 different tactics, we try to find something that's unique and highlight what audio could do for them and how it could work and how it can be both simple and unbelievably effective. So when we're in a case study, we'll talk about some of these things, and a lot of times it's pretty eye-opening. We're teaching them something they didn't know. They've been in this business a long time. They didn't think about audio that way. So it's pretty cool. But we'll pick a real example, like Caleb just did. I think that resonated with a lot of people, right? And tell that story.
So you guys have a case study you'll be working on bringing public, is it?
Yeah.
Heck yeah. When is there a webinar?
It's under the chair.
Oh. Do we have questions? Because if not, I'll keep going through the time. Just show hands questions. Okay. Well, I'll keep going on my end. Awesome. I think, measurement. We all like to rag on podcasting for measurement, but we're entering a world of video where there isn't measurement and all of that stuff, so we have the opportunity to reassess things. How does measurement and analysis enter into this when podcasting is bigger than just the RSS feed and audio? How are we getting these data signals? How are we identifying the right targeting and placement of everything?
Yeah, so measurement is the main part of the business that we do. It powers our AI creative optimization tool. It is difficult in the audio space, especially as people from the UK know GDPR signals are going away, and so we use AI not just for creative optimization, we also use it for our measurement tools as well. So how can we get more accurate and robust data sets as signals go away? That's kind of the most difficult question for a company like us. In the US, we still are able to get data points like IP and user agent, et cetera, but MAIDs are going away. Cookies are starting to deprecate. And so we've started incorporating AI to power our attribution tool, not just to say which creative is doing best, but create more accurate measurement data. And we've brought that to the podcast space over the last 2 years. And I think it's been one of the ways that have really helped investment coming to the space is saying we have a trusted measurement source now, not saying we're the only one, and we're for all of the measurement tools in the industry. But showcasing that podcast is not just a medium where you can get a really cool post to talk about your talk about your products. It's a medium where you can actually drive revenue, ROAS and real revenue results.
And it's critical. I feel like all media. I think agencies are under a lot of pressure. They got to show that it's working, that it's performing. And I think our job is to develop the right supply that we think is going to be effective, and targeting that with partners like Claritas to actually measure and confirm that is really critical to go back to the agency. We learn through that process, which is helpful.
And being in the UK, there's not one AIB audio event where no one talks about the measurement in audio is fantastic. The one thing that everyone always wants to hear is
we'll find something to shit on when we
right.
measurement solid. They'll find something else.
Right.
It's always kind of, but I think if we can measure it better and then make the learning, put it into the creative and into the media, it kind of brings media and creative back together. You're not bringing the media and the creative band back together in some ways, and then optimizing and creating better outcomes for brands.
So what I want to end with is how accessible is this, right? We think about all this stuff here, like you're a major representation of inventory, you're an incredibly sophisticated stack of tools that people can build together or use some of your pre-built ones. You're one of the leading attribution providers. Are we talking a brand entering into the space with their first test campaign, tens of thousands of dollars, is able to test this out? Or are we talking like, is this a bigger commitment, or is this something that people can easily try things out and see if it's going to work for them?
From my perspective, it's a pretty easy test. I mean, we've seen campaigns with major brands get up and running in less than 3 weeks with a commitment not much larger than what you just mentioned. I think the great thing is, at least what I found in the audio industry, is I think a lot of the technology companies and media partners are starting to kind of work together and not necessarily look at each other as different types of business or competitors. I think we all need each other to make the product of this work. So, I know the three of us have sat in on many meetings with a single brand and worked together to figure out the best way possible for them to get up and running. But I mean, if you have the audio ads that are getting created in 2 days, and they just have to be uploaded into a media tag, and then you send them over to Scott to start running. I mean, realistically, if you have someone bought in, this could get up in a week or two.
But I think what you said is so true. Like I'm picturing the three of us and a customer. Like you work together as a team.
Yeah, it's not automated. It's
right.
not like humans are making it happen.
Yeah. And we're all in the same direction. We're all trying to make a successful outcome, and we're all working toward that. So I think if you have that right mix, you obviously, from the sales perspective, you want the right budget for the time that you're going to spend to do that, or a partner that's going to lead into that in that way. But it's pretty damn easy to get up and running.
I have a new last question. Well, you want to answer?
No, I mean, from our side, it's super easy.
Yeah.
You want to start? We start today.
There you go.
Right now.
Is this replacing jobs? Or is this empowering you guys to do more and hire more
Replacing
people?
jobs?
Yeah.
No. I think that's the biggest myth.
Yeah.
I mean, not from my perspective. I think this is enabling us to do things we once dreamt about.
Yeah, instead of that junior planner being on there setting all the individual targeting, now they get to do something more interesting with their name.
Do something they want to do, and they enjoy what they're doing on a day-to-day basis. And like my first example I gave, there's some campaigns that you literally cannot, there's just not enough time in a lifetime.
I have applied tags to 3,000 creators before.
Maybe only Brian Berlin.
It sucks. I messed them up.
And you, by the way, you screwed up 1,000 of those.
I absolutely did, but you can tell. Thank you all so much for joining us. Give it up for Ken.